Good morning. Thank you for joining me for today's Facebook Live. It's Sunday morning, so this is my regular stamping session. My name is Tracy Held. I'm in Melbourne, in Australia. Today's card is a little bit more of a simple card. We don't have any fancy folds or anything, so just completely basic card base. But we are going to be doing a little bit of techniques today. So this is the card that we're going to make. So you can see, or you can't see, but you will see when we're going through that we're going to be doing masking, and we're going to be doing some heat embossing, and we're going to be doing some blending. So we've got a whole lot of stuff going on in this card. Now, the products that we're going to use, it's mostly just stamp sets today. I'm using Quiet Meadow. I wanted it to be a birthday card, so didn't want to use any of the sentiments in it, but I'm using the happy birthday from the Celebrating You stamp set. If you don't have this set yet, it is actually a really nice set. It's got lots of nice sentiments in it. Wishing you a happily ever after, that's really nice for a wedding. You've got Mother's Day, birthdays, anniversaries, just becauses. So, and some encouraging ones. That's a really good stamp set. We're going to use some clear embossing powder. I always make sure that I have it written very big and bold what's clear, because if you're just looking at the powder, you don't know what's clear and what's white, and you don't want to make the mistake of throwing white embossing powder when you want clear, or vice versa. I'm going to change up the colors, so instead of using the pale papaya and Cajun craze, I'm going to use Night of Navy and Tahitian Tide. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to start working on my Tahitian Tide layer. I just want a scrap to stamp onto. Alright, now this was the only time I've done this. I've only done one card, and I learned very quickly that you need to stamp in a very specific order, because you'll see afterwards I kind of stamped stuff afterwards and it didn't work quite well. But sometimes you're just so enthusiastic about getting to do stuff that you forget to think through how you're doing it. All right, so first up, I'm going to stamp my sentiment, and I was using this to throw embossing powder onto because I was too keen to do my card to actually find my embossing tray, but I've got that, so that's going to make it much better when we're doing so. You want the sentiment towards the bottom, but it doesn't matter exactly where, and there we go. That's going to be straight enough. Next up, I'm going to stamp my flowers. So I want my flowers that they're towards the bottom, leaving some space at the top for stamping. And I don't think that there's a right way and a wrong way up to this flower, but I just want to make sure that I'm stamping the same way, or so that I can see what I'm doing, because we're going to mask them. Now I'm stamping one kind of in the middle, and then one on either side of it. Now, because I like to be prepared, I've actually gone and stamped and cut out some of the flowers. So these are fussy cut. I've just done this using post-it notes. It would be better to actually use the masking paper, because that's going to stick better, and it's going to stick all around, which you'll see. I'm going to just have to work really carefully because I've only got that very little edge, well, sticky edge of the post-it notes, but I've ordered my masking paper, so it will be in my next order, but of course I need to do this right now. So post-it notes it is. They will work, but like I say, that masking paper will just make things that much easier for you. And clearly I didn't stamp this one very well and cut it out very well, but that's okay. So we're going to mask those flowers, and then I'm going to stamp my dots. Now, being careful with the dots because I don't want them to go sort of past that middle there. And that was what I was saying. I decided afterwards that it looked a bit dull with that plain, so I wanted dots. So it's fine where my flowers are masked. But just be careful. We are going to put a layer of post-it notes across the middle when we do our blending later. So I'm just going to do that because I do want some dots in there. Okay, that's enough speckles for me for now. Right, now we want to keep the masks over the flowers, and what I'm going to do is clean my stamp really nicely. Hi Anne, nice that you're joining me. And in Australia, often we get all the Americans and I get all the Australians watching on replay. So thank you for joining me today. I want this really nice and clean because I'm going to stamp with the Versamark, so I don't want any of my Night of Navy in there. And just in case you were wondering, I did re-ink my Night of Navy, so it is quite juicy. And the reasons for that is that when I start blending, I wanted to blend, I want a really strong color with the blend, so it just works easier if you've got a really nice inky pad. Alright, so we're going to stamp with the Versamark, and I'm stamping over my masked flowers. I could leave it with the two, and I know that you really can't see where I've stamped, but that's where the magic's going to come in a bit later. But I'm just stamping a couple of flowers over the edge so that we're getting that nice look over the edge. Okay, right, move all of this out of the way for the moment. And I just realized I did something really stupid because here was my embossing buddy and I didn't use it. So hopefully I'm not going to get speckles over. Please use your embossing buddy. It does make a difference. And now that we've got them back with these embossing trays, which as far as I'm concerned, as far as embossing goes, are the best things ever. I was really upset when Stampin' Up! Discontinued them, but hey, they're back now, so what more could we ask for? Alright, now always throw your embossing powder back because otherwise you're going to heat it and mess it and blow it all over the place. And moving stuff out the way. I think I've just stuck my fingers straight into the embossing powder, but oh well, we're going to emboss this, so bear with me because a little bit of noise Now, if you were wondering why I was getting my fingers in the way, I learned last night that if you don't hold the masks down, they do tend to blow off with the heat tool. So that was why I was burning my fingers. And I can see here I did rock the stamp a little bit, and because I hadn't used the embossing buddy, I got a bit of a line, but that's okay. We've got the speckles, so that's going to be fine. All right, now what we're going to do is take your post-it note, and we want to have a line going across, so it doesn't matter exactly where you place them, but if you've got the long post-it notes, that'll probably work better. Okay, you make do with what you've got. Okay, so we want those to stay stuck, and we want our masks to stay in place. And then with my blending brush, I'm taking my Night of Navy ink, and this was what I said to you earlier. You do want to get quite a dark coverage. We want a very obvious difference between the Tahitian Tide and the Night of Navy. So just keep going. And here I'm just dabbing off before I go onto my paper, because I don't want it to be too blotchy. I want it to look like it is a nice solid color on the top of my cardstock over here. And this is where I said to you, having re-inked the ink pad is helping me, because I'm able to pick up more ink as I'm going along. The other thing with these blending brushes is the more you use them, the more ink kind of gathers on the brush. So you're then, as you start, you're not getting as much color on, but as you're going, you're actually depositing more and more. And I'm doing this quite carefully because, like I said, because these post-it notes are only sticky on one side, you just have to be careful that you don't push the brush, that you actually push